Do you remember the song by Bob Marley? Every cat has his day. Remember how it went? Hosh curry soldier comes from Pretoria. Vusi Matlala, weta manyala. Oyo, oyo, yo, yo. Oyo, oyo, yo, yo. My question is, how did Bob Marley know? How did Bob Marley know? Did he meet Vusi Matlala weta manyala somewhere? I don't know. Maybe the man was prophetic. You know, the man even sang a song about how we would see who the real revolutionaries would be in Zimbabwe. Imagine that. And it turned out we did see that Mugabe wasn't one of them. Welcome to another episode of The Dissection. South Africa is a movie, a drama, a series, a spitty, a something. It's all happening. Tupac wasn't lying. Today was a spectacularly busy day because 3 things were happening almost concurrently. Number 1, Ramaphosa explained his relationship and knowledge of Hangwani Morgan Maumela and his mother in the National Council of Provinces. General Sibia was having a hard day at the office when he was giving responses to the ad hoc committee in Parliament. From the ANC to the EFF to all the other parties, only the Democratic Alliance really gave him a series of soft questions. That was the only time he felt like he could breathe. Even the chairperson was asking him some tough questions like, why were you being insubordinate, not leaving the matter of the political killings task team alone when you were specifically told by General Masemola to leave it? It was a tough day. The man's bald head was sweating, but that was not the only thing that was happening, because the third thing that was happening concurrently, a big story which we must not forget, is that the Madlanga Commission resumed and heard evidence in camera from Mr. X. And Mr. X was able to show some disturbing connections between Vusi Matlala and various individuals and disturbing conversations between those individuals. As all of these people are called to the commission, these various individuals who've been implicated at the commission, as they are called to the commission, as they are called to the ad hoc committee, I'm sure that there'll be major cracks that will pick up between the versions that they give as they're now choosing whether to defend themselves, defend their families, or to defend the hosh curry behavior. For example, the man whose name has been mentioned all over, from Fikile Mbalula's cell phone to all other cell phones, is Brown Envelope Mkhotsi. And it looks like the man is going to sing like Adele before she got married. When Adele was still feeling heartbreak, you couldn't sing like Adele. She would make you feel her pain and the pain of her ancestors 3 times removed. Not 5x or less, as Mr. Sibia says, but Adele of this whole thing is Brown Mkhotsi. He's a singer. You know that man is going to be winning idols. He's definitely a contender. So that's all stuff that happened today. It made it a busy day to keep track of everything. But you have the dissection. If you haven't subscribed, that's hosh curry behavior. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you do so that we can grow the channel, help people find the channel. We're doing a service here to digest all of the information that's coming through, look through it critically, analytically, dissect it, get past the subdermal layer, go deep to the heart of the issues, incise everything, and make sure that our scalpels are sharp. So please subscribe. Turn on your notifications. Share this in your WhatsApp groups. Let's try to hit 120,000 before the end of October. I think we can do it. I think the dissection community is one of the strongest community on YouTube. I think we're doing that. We're handling business. Let's start with the biggest story. Biggest story today, in my opinion, was the answer being given by President Ramaphosa about Hangwani Maumela. President Ramaphosa acknowledged that he knows Hangwani, but he doesn't know him like that. You know, when someone asks you, maybe your significant other, how do you know that girl? I know her, she's from my neighborhood, but I don't know her like that. So President Ramaphosa basically said he knows Hangwani, but you don't know him like that. He doesn't know him like that. So it's one of those things which was interesting to observe. Here's what he had to say.
There is this one individual who's reported to be involved in corruption at Tembisa Hospital, and he's said to be your nephew. Honorable President, can you please clarify your relationship with him? If any...
Yes, this matter has occupied the headlines for quite a number of days now. My spokesperson, Mr. Vincent Magwenya, addressed the media yesterday in response to what they say was a video and a photograph. And he focused on that, and he explained what is my relationship or at all with this person. Now, 47 years ago, I got married to his father's sister, his aunt. We divorced 43 years ago. And when I said to Honorable Steenhuisen in 2022, when he asked whether I knew him, I said I did not know him because I had never encountered him, I had never seen him, and that was gospel true. Now, later in 2023, as I was walking in the street in my neighborhood, I walked past a house, as Mr. Magwenya said. I'm now promoting him to a minister. As Mr. Magwenya said yesterday, I was walking in a street where I usually walk. And even this morning, coming here, my convoy drives past that house. There are 2 entrances to where I live, or 3. And it is the thoroughfare, the way where we drive and where I also walk. So in 2023, I was walking, as Mr. Magwenya said, with one of my colleagues who was my then advisor, who's now a deputy minister, taking a walk in the morning. And I often say, when people say, we want to meet you, Mr. President, I said, no, come at 6 o'clock. Come and walk with me. And then you will have me for an hour and a half as we do our 10-kilometer walk or so. So I was walking with Mr. Sibia, and as we were walking past a house which I saw in construction for quite a while, and I kept asking, whose house is this? It is a massive house. And I wanted to know whose house it is, and I never got the information. So walking there, a car comes past, and I always mispronounce this person's name, Thibaut Touch or something like that. He gets out of the car with another gentleman. He wants to talk to me, to photograph, and all that. So we stop. And now we are against the wall of this massive house. And that's where the photograph happens and the video. So then the allegation is the person who was in the photograph is Maumela. It was not Maumela. It was Mr. Thibaut Touch and Mr. Jones from the United States, I later learned. So there was this brouhaha that, yes, I visit his home on a regular basis and so forth. I can say I walk past that house when I go on my walks. Now, in 2024, so it should be known, because Mr. Magwenya only focused on this photograph. In 2024, I am walking on that same street, and a person comes out of this house and he greets me. And as I often meet people, I ask them, who are you? He says, I am Hangwani Maumela. And that's how he introduces himself to me. And I say, so you are the Maumela who is putting my name into disrepute. And he smiles away. And now I've encountered this person, and I walk away, and I walk to my home. And then in 2024, on the 26th of December, I am walking with my daughter, who loves walking too. on the same street. And there this young man comes out and he says, "Hello, Ramaphosa. My mother is here. Can you say hello to her?" And I say, "Who is she?" He says, "It's Mboneni Maumela." Now, when I was at school in Papuli High School with my then wife, Hope Mudau, her brother was also there. And later I got to know that this Mboneni and this my wife's brother, my former wife's brother, they hooked up, and as they hooked up, they had a child. And this is now Hangwani Maumela, whom I did not know. But I know his mother because we were at school together. So, so he says, "My mother is here. Can you say hello to her?" And she's coming out of the yard towards the main gate. And then she's wearing a gown, a morning gown. And I immediately say, I can't allow her to come into the street with a morning gown. And I go towards the gate and I greet her and I say, "How are you? How have you been?" That's the sum total of it all. My morning encounters with South Africans, because some of them are quite interesting and exciting. So this is how this Maumela fellow then gets into this whole drama, because his aunt, who is my former wife of 47 years ago, is his aunt. And he is really not my relative as such. So I have encountered him, and you can make what you like of it. Do I deal with him? No. Do I meet him and sit down with him? No. Do I visit him at his house? No. Am I appalled at the allegations that are being made against him? Yes, I am appalled. And as I walk past that house, I know that that house was built with the money, as it is alleged, that was not properly acquired. And it is money that should have been spent on the health of our people.
That's the answer. I don't know what you make of it. This made me think about unintended consequences. Fundamentally, sometimes when a decision is made or a series of decisions are made to produce one particular outcome, there are some undesirable unintended consequences that arise. I think one of the stories that is often told is how in India at some point they wanted to get rid of black mambas or some snake, and then, they gave a reward for people who were killing those snakes. And what it then did is that people started breeding the snakes so that they could actually then kill more and get more money. And it expanded and boomed the population of the snakes. It's either a parable or it did happen. I've never really looked into it in detail. But this particular question made me think of that, because I don't think we would have got this question and this answer, but not for the unintended consequence of the SIU raid of the Maumela home, right? People began to connect the dots for themselves because people can investigate. You must never underestimate the collective power of dissectors on platforms like X, like Instagram, like TikTok, because dissecting is a way of life. It's not just a show on YouTube. It's an approach to philosophy, politics, economics, and a variety of other things. So people were dissecting, people were connecting the dots. And someone found a clip of the president standing on the curb of that infamous mansion, which was built on hoshinanigans by the president of Hosh Karistans, none other than Hangwani Maumela, Morgan Maumela. Now, in that clip, the president is chilling on the curb with Jomo Sibia. Tibo Touch is standing with him. And then, Noel Jones, who's a pastor from America, is approaching him. I approached the president. Some people speculated that Noel Jones was actually Hangwani Maumela. No, that's not the case. It was Noel Jones, a pastor. I think he's retired now. I know him from his relationship with Pastor T.D. Jakes. He used to preach a lot at the Potter's house. It's unclear who took the video, but that's the situation as it played out, and that's what the president was explaining, right? So, because of those SIU events, that raid that we all saw, Everyone could identify the house. Social media went wild when they found that footage, and the speculation led to the clip that we've seen. Now, I don't know if all of this was just a coincidence or if it was just the way of the truth coming out. Sooner or later, the truth will out. Sooner or later. I don't know. But if we take the president's version at face value as true, let's assume that it is as he has said, everything that he has said is the way it is. Obviously, he previously said he did not know the man in 2022, but has now acknowledged that in some ways he was aware of his neighbor and the accusations about him. He says he was wondering, who's this man? I think if a president wants to know who's this man living next door or in my neighborhood who's building this massive, lavish mansion, he would have been able to find out. And obviously, he then knew that his former high school friend was also, in that same circle. Who we don't speak enough about Hangwani's mother because she was in the Limpopo Department of Health, I think from 2002 till she retired. It seems as if that, Hangwani got some of these tips from her. Her name is in the trust. She was living at the house, coming outside to meet presidents, etc. when they were walking for their 10-kilometer, 90-minute walks. So we don't speak enough about her, but I think questions also need to be asked about her because you may find that she is the senior person, the mastermind, and her son was just, doing what his mother told him to do. Sometimes we often underestimate that, we always think that it's just the men who are participating in horse shenanigans, but you may never know. So I think there are questions that need to be asked because she's at the right age to, if she's very well connected in ANC Limpopo politics. Nobody's looked into that. Nobody's dissectors. Look into it. Let's see what answers we can get. But there's something I want to point out, and it's significant. Even if everything the president has said, even if now there's some explanation that has been provided, even though that version has already been given before, there's something that still needs to be addressed. There's one issue that is not resolved in the question of Hangwani Maumela and his connections. By the way, the fact that this is being answered in this way, yesterday it was the president's spokesperson, today the president in the National Council of Provinces, that to me shows that this issue is hot even in the president's office. But what's the one issue that has not been resolved? Jeff Weeks in this book, The Shadow State, right? He mentions two things that in his view connected Hangwani to the president's circle. The president may not have a relationship with him, but Benjani Chauke is the other connection that was made that has still not been explained. So even if the president says, no, I was just walking past that house, Ola Kowing Sidinki, don't sweat it. I kind of know him. And obviously we have these connections. His mama and I were in high school together, etc. That still doesn't explain this. What's this? What's Jamie talking about? I bought this book, I read this book, and once you buy information, you can use it in a variety of ways. So let's try to understand what Jeff Weeks says. He says in page 161 of the book, right? Page 161. If you have the book, go to page 161. He says, I visited one of his Sandton properties and found a construction site. He's talking here about Hangwani Maumela. The multi-story house was clearly going to be massive. I could see as much from satellite imagery. From the roadway, most of the structure was hidden behind 4-meter-high walls, and the verge was lined with cars as builders and tilers beat a path in and out. I parked a distance away and watched. A black BMW X5 slipped into the available berth. 2 men in suits got out and walked into the property. 10 minutes later, they returned into the car and left. I hastily scribbled down the registration and sent it to somebody who could access Inatis, the National Traffic Database. Turned out, the black BMW was registered to the police and allocated to the Presidential Protection Detail. That's on page 161. Then on page 165, he says the following. When I could confirm that Morgan was a relative of Ramaphosa, I immediately sent questions to the president's office. His spokesperson, Vincent Makwenya, tried to deflect. Yes, they knew of Morgan and they were aware that he traded on his presidential link, but there was no relationship with the president. You know what African families are like, I was told. To the extent that Maumela is the son of the president's ex-brother-in-law, the president has no further knowledge of Maumela, nor has he ever had any relationship with him, Makwenya said. The president does not have any knowledge of Maumela's business dealings, nor was he aware of his involvement with the Tembisa Hospital or any other state entity. As stated, he has no relationship with Maumela. Then Jeff Wicks gave his view. It was clear to me that Makwenya was trying to distance his principal from Morgan. For a tenderpreneur to have ties to the union buildings and those at the levers of power and political influence was scandalous. The spin doctor could distance Ramaphosa from Morgan, but he could not gainsay the latter's friendship with Bejani Chauke, the president's principal political advisor. Chauke is a man who holds immense sway. He ran for political office at the ANC's elective conference in 2022. He played a critical role in the CR17 campaign that saw Ramaphosa take to the party's president. Morgan and Chauke both had homes in the Hyde Park complex featured on Top Billing, with Maumela at stand number 3 and Chauke at stand number 6. The pair were neighbors. When I sent questions to Chauke about his friendship with Morgan, his response did not come to me. Chauke then responded to another person, and later on at paragraph 3 he says, when another newspaper reported on separate claims about Chauke, he included my questions and responses to them in what he sent back. He claimed that he had only ever met Morgan twice, both instances being meetings of the body corporate. The trouble was that I had people who could place Chauke in Morgan's home constantly. One person told me how the president's fixer appeared for breakfast at the villa one morning in a robe and slippers. And then there was the car registered to Ramaphosa's police protection detail that showed up at Morgan's home. Now I had a plausible explanation for its presence. The fact was that Morgan had allies in the uppermost echelons of power in both the ANC and the state. I was also reliably informed that Morgan would regularly holiday with state capture beneficiary Edwin Sodi, the quintessential tenderpreneur who had geared his business empire to secure government work. There it is. So this answer still does not deal with critical questions that need to be responded to, right? So let's leave it there. I don't know what you think. Let's have a conversation in the comments. It seems that Hangwani from the president's version was just waking up waiting for the president to walk past, because he approached him multiple times and then even said, my mom's here today, etc. And he was comfortable enough to do so. I don't know. I think Hangwani will have to also explain his interactions with the president. He has to be called in. I think there's something interesting there. And he has already been connected also with Brown Mkhotsi. So in that whole network of people, you've got Vusi Matlala, Wetsa Manyala, Brown Envelope Mkhotsi, Hangwani Maumela, Katiso Mulefe, and these people are all being connected, right? So now let's go on. The Madlanga Commission. The Madlanga Commission has resumed with a new witness known as Mr. X, who took the stand. X ongasolveki. The evidence leaders have been allowed to present the witness's testimony through the voice of an intermediary without video. This is all to protect him. And even though they took all of these efforts, something happened which was rather worrying. And I don't know if Mr. X is actually going to be safe for the remainder of the testimony that he was presenting. It seems as if every time this evidence shows up, something happens. Mr. X Ongasolveki was exposing a lot of information in relation to various implicated individuals. According to Mr. X's statement, Vusi Matlala appeared to be facilitating a property deal for Tato Sinona, who is the son of Major General Sinona, and the property was in Menlyn, Pretoria, where he owns a penthouse, right? Curiously also, on the 2nd of January, General Sinona forwarded a message to Vusi Matlala on that PKTT disbandment. And this is perhaps because he was having a conversation already with Vusi Matlala requesting information or assistance. And, there was this belief that the task team was coming for him. So it's clear that there was some kind of discussion Matlala was having with multiple people about this task team. And the fact that it was disbanded, or there was an attempt to disband it, remains the decision that shook policing and South African politics. The fact that they did it after this guy had been talking to a variety of people about it is something that's still going. They're trying to explain, Shem. Sibia was trying to explain, but we are seeing other connections now that this team became very important. Some of the messages, right, between the two expose that they would meet regularly, right? General Sinona message saying, can we meet at our usual place? An important context that you need to be aware of is that Lieutenant General Dumisani Khumalo alleged that General Sinona's son was in business with Matlala and that he gave away, Sinona gave away state secrets to Matlala to help keep the pair's business relationship going. Right? So this was effectively evidence that confirmed that. All of those who keep saying, where is the evidence? Where is the fissures of evidence? We've gone through various iterations. The first one was, where is the evidence? Then the second one was, it's expensive. No, that was the third. It's expensive was the recent one. The other one is that the general hates the media. Now the third one is, it was expensive. By the way, we saw an article come out yesterday that said the 17% conviction rate is a mere 17% conviction rate. It's higher than the general murder conviction rate, higher than the rape conviction rate, higher than the Amapanyaza conviction rate, higher than many other departments' conviction rates. So that task team was overperforming. And we must be aware that the conviction rate is not just a function of the work of the police, the prosecution. There's a trial. If witnesses die, if witnesses are killed, if witnesses are intimidated, that can affect the conviction rate. So for 235 million, you had a 17% conviction rate. Zondo Commission costs billions. There's zero convictions, right? So if you think about that, the argument actually is not for a disbandment of the task team. It's for a entrenchment and expansion of the task team. Even Sibia, when he was talking, saying, no, we can't just have the task team is just for one province. That's what it was set up for by the president. That's what he did. The interministerial committee set it up like that because political killings were most exacerbant or most prolific, rather, in KwaZulu-Natal. But that's not a case to say there shouldn't be other task teams of that nature. And I actually think that the work that we've seen from this task team actually indicates that it should be expanded, right, and rolled out further. So it's not an argument against the task team that it was doing work in KZN effectively, right? It's an argument that this should be expanded, not an argument against it. So that's something that I thought I should mention because the fishers of evidence have been fishing for evidence. Then they say, no, this guy is attacking the media. He didn't attack the media, by the way. He attacked certain journalists who he said were working with certain people. And we mustn't act as if, Jesus, the day before he departed earth, left us with the media and with journalists, etc., etc. Every craft has got room for criticism, room for improvement. Journalists around the world need to be aware that when they get too close to government, to politicians, to other actors, they may end up being mouthpieces for them. We know that there is such a thing as manufacturing consent. I've told you guys about that book by Noam Chomsky and Edward S. Herman multiple times, how the incumbency works with journalists, works with particular people in mainstream media to maintain its power, to push its narrative, and uses access and proximity as part of the tools, and how it has an agenda to provide a narrative that suits the interests of the political elites, the economic elites, sometimes the middle class, whoever also the mainstream advertisers are advertising to, which is why certain stories don't make it to the media as much as other stories and why certain focus is on certain things. So I've gone off on a tangent. Let me get back to the evidence of Mr. Exonga Solvegi. So the evidence confirmed it. The man who had sight of all of the evidence, remember, right, was Dumisani Khumalo, General Dumisani Khumalo. He was charged in a spectacular event, arrested at the airport, prevented from entering his workplace. Then now we've heard that the magistrate who was involved in that has recused himself from the case going forward. He appeared at the commission, gave 2 solid days of evidence, then he fell sick. According to Mr. X, which was an extraordinary thing, according to Mr. X's evidence, a member of the ANC in Northwest, Suleiman Karim, sent Vusi Matlala Wetsamanyala a message that Morgan sorted. That suggests that, he was speaking about Hangwani Morgan Maumela. Sorted how? That's something that he'll have to explain. Right, Suleiman, they're probably going to have to bring him in. Karim sent a message to Vusi Matlala saying that he spoke to Police Minister Senzo Mchunu, and the message read as following: Good morning, Minister. I just received a call from our guy who's a service provider for our health risk management project. He's got very serious concerns. Apparently, you gave a directive to scrutinize his contract, and while they're at it, they must stall as much as they can to release purchase orders until you guys come up with something that can warrant the termination of service. So it does seem as if at some point, Senzo Mkhunu was seeking to cancel this. I don't know whether he felt the heat. I don't know whether he had a difference of opinion with Bheki Cele also has to come and explain himself and what his connections are with Vusi Matlala, because remember, he visited Matlala at the penthouse in Pretoria, met him not twice, at Morgan Hangwani Maumela's Zimbali mansion. So there's another connection there between Vusi Matlala, Wetsa Manyala, Hangwani Morgan Maumela, and a senior ANC politician who was a former minister of police. So these former ministers of police, it seems as if there's been issues there, current and former, except for the current acting minister of police. He doesn't seem to be implicated in this, right? So Matlala was concerned that the Medicare 24 was owed 10 million by the police service. In other messages, he also expressed concern about the cancellation of the health service contract by Mkhunu. He was talking as if he had a legitimate expectation that Mkhunu would protect him and would do this, and he felt betrayed, right? And then evidence leader Adila Hasim played audio of the EMPD boss, Julius Mkhwanazi, the other Mkhwanazi, I call him Shady Mkhwanazi, who he was sending this message to Vusi Matlala after his driver was caught speeding. So this Shady Mkhwanazi told Matlala that the driver was arrested, released on bail, and would only be fined. Then there was a security issue that played out. Dramatic. I actually think that somebody hacked into the feed or something. Something got hacked. They said there was a technical issue. And that worried me because I thought about Dumisani Khumalo falling sick. Now Mr. X's evidence is being interrupted in this dramatic way. Something happened. They couldn't explain it. The Madlanga Commission said it ran into a technical issue that could endanger the safety of Witness X. And the commission decided to stop for a little bit. And then they came and then they made an announcement that the evidence of Witness X will be tendered in a different format. The evidence leader who was leading Witness X will then read his statement into the record. This is unprecedented stuff, and I think it just shows the scale of this issue. On the same day that the president explains his connection with Hangwani Maumela, the evidence of Mr. X is interrupted by a technical issue, and then you still have Sibia on the stand. And Sibia was back on the stand, and it was a tough day for him in the office, except for some of the questions from the DA, which were relatively sweetheart questions. Various claims were made by Sibia. There were multiple contradictions in his version even today. There were also multiple concessions, which did not help his case, in my opinion. He even explained his relationship with the man with 4 passports. 4 passports, not 3 passports. 4. Get it right, people. Get it right, Mr. Mkhwanazi, General Mkhwanazi. I don't have 3 passports, I have 4. 4 passports. Another guy has got 4 phones. I'm talking here about Mr. Paul O'Sullivan. So Sibia also explained. Here's some highlights from the day.
Letter that was written by Ubrink speaking about you not passing a competency assessment report. Did you do a competency assessment and did you pass it or you didn't pass it?
Now, as to the competency assessment, remember that when you get to the competency assessment, it's a document where they say to you, it's an exercise where they say to you, there's no right or wrong answer. This is just to look at your character and whether you are a strong person and which character you are. You don't really even need to spend time on this thing because there's no way you will get this thing right to say you are right or wrong. So I wrote what I wrote and the result came the way they came and say, you can be suitable here and not here. That is what happened.
Why pass and why fail?
Well, I don't. It doesn't say you failed it like it's a it's like whether you passed. What do you call it? Let me say it was not positive.
Why pass and why fail?
Okay, let me say I fail.
Okay. 26 year relationship yakho no Paul O'Sullivan injani?
Paul O'Sullivan, I know him very well. I've been operating in Gauteng for many years, and then he's one of the active role players in terms of crime fighting. He reports crime, people report to him, he reports to the police, and look, Paul O'Sullivan contacts everybody. Even if you are the National Commissioner, you will get an email from Paul O'Sullivan. He's not my friend. I've never been to his house. He's never been to my house. I've never gone to a restaurant with Paul O'Sullivan where we sat and we drank tea or coffee. What Paul O'Sullivan is all about is that he's a forensics expert. He receives many information that he processes and even relay to the police. Just like your Mike Hayes, your Thomas Chat, these are the people that are active in the crime fighting system. They are there. You can't avoid them, and you can't wish them away.
Maybe before you proceed with him, because the National Commissioner, when he was here, he says, not once, but on several occasions, I told General Sibia that he must stay out of this process, and I will handle it. And I see the letter that you are reading, because I still have another letter here written by yourself, dated April 2022, 22 April 2025. And this is the period that in his testimony, he has said to us that he have warned you in April that you must stay away from the PKTT. But then, maybe before you go back to Honorable Nola, if you can just take us through that to say the letters that the reason why I'm asking you who signed the letter, and you say it's you, and I have this other one as well of 22. It has the same topic of, the same subject of deactivation and disbandment of the PKTT, and it's signed by yourself. How do you continue to sign these letters when the National Commissioner says, I have spoken to General Sibia and instructed him to get out of the PKTT?
Sibia said a lot. He considers himself competent, maintains there was he had no involvement with the tender process linked to Vusi the Cat Matlala. Manyala, he didn't know Matlala, even though he knew him from a distance, 5x or less, everything I showed you yesterday. He says he's often been found he's surrounded by crime intelligence officials. He said that, he has this relationship with O'Sullivan. He said he couldn't deny that criminals and criminal syndicates have infiltrated the police, although yesterday he denied that there was a top 5. Look, there's a lot with Sibia. Today was a busy day. I was hoping to do a full review of his testimony and to even outline his version in its best light, to give his case, in a charitable sense. And I'm still going to do that. It's been a busy day, as you can see in Mzansi, the movie, the drama, the series. We'll have to do that another time. Let's meet now in the comment section and have a conversation about everything I just told you. It's hot. It's hot. Tupac told us. Whoo! Let's meet in the comments.